Hi guys, this is Studio X, and today we're going to be doing another tutorial on making an intro. So let's get started by watching the finished result. So as you can see, this is a pretty dynamic intro with some nice depth to it. So let's get started. So first we're going to make a new composition. Let's call this main video, and I'm making it 4K, so 3840 by 2160 with a duration of 10 seconds. Hit OK. Next thing you're going to need is you're going to need to get a texture for the background. So I'm just going to type in leather texture because I think a black leather texture is going to look nice. For searching, I usually go into tools and pick a size bigger than my composition. This looks like a pretty nice looking texture, so I'm just going to download this. Just going to call it leather texture 1. I'm going to import it right in here. And just going to drop it right into my composition. So, looks good. Next thing that we are going to do is we are going to make a new camera. These settings look fine. 15mm lens, enable depth of field, and just hit OK. Hit OK here. So, we are going to make this leather texture 3D, so let's enable this 3D and hit P for position, and I'm just gonna bring it way back, so around 3000 pixels back in the Z depth, and I'm just gonna hit S for scale, and I'm just gonna make it bigger. So now I'm gonna come up with a shape. So I'm going to go to layer, new solid, and I'm going to make this comp size, but I'm going to copy the width and paste it into the height. That way we have a perfect square, and hit OK. And then I'm going to press and hold the shape tool over here and choose the ellipse, double click it, and it's going to automatically make it a perfect circle. And then after that, I'm going to go into the mask, and I'm actually going to make the size of the solid smaller right here. There we go. And then I'm just going to hit M twice on the keyboard to pull up the mask, and I'm going to press on the mask right here. Make sure not the layer but the actual mask, and by pressing Command D you'll duplicate the mask. I'm going to change the blending mode to subtract, and I'm gonna push the expansion down. That way we can make a perfect sphere. A circle, I mean, not a sphere. So this looks like a pretty good thinness of it. So now that that's looking good, let's make it let's make it a 3D layer as well. And let's start naming our things. So let's name this circle. We're going to name the camera camera. We're going to name the leather texture texture. And we're looking pretty good. So let's start animating the camera as well. I'm going to go to around 6 seconds and hit P for position, and hit the keyframe, and hit R, and for Z rotation hit a keyframe as well. Now press U to pull up the both keyframes that you just did. Go to the beginning of the time, and we can just zoom out the camera. As you can see, we're already getting some nice parallax. So zoom out the camera, and then maybe give it some rotation, so maybe like 8 degrees or something, maybe like 12 degrees. And for the last 2 frames, for the 2 keyframes at the end, we are going to right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, and we are going to make sure that the rotation ends before the position, so we're just going to push it back a little bit earlier, so maybe like 5 seconds. Just mostly eyeballing it. Then we're going to need to make the size of this fit again, so we can actually just rotate this to fit it more nicely. So let's do that. I accidentally moved the keyframe over here, so I'm gonna need to bring this back and push this back here. Okay. So yes, let's make this -12 so it cancels out, or 12 to cancel out. And I'm just gonna make the scale bigger. There we go. So now if you just preview this, as you can see, there's some nice parallax, some nice movement. There we go. So now we've got some camera motion, we've got a little parallax. Let's start putting in our layer of text into this. So I'm gonna get a text tool and just type in just studio. Make the text a lot bigger, and this looks pretty good. You're gonna go into window, align, and just align it right in the middle. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to layer, pre-compose, move all the attributes into a new composition, hit OK. Then you can double click on it and you have the studio layer, the studio text in here. Next, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna pre-comp this as well. And you can just hit OK. And the reason we're doing this is you'll see it in a minute, but we're gonna be cutting it up into pieces. So before we go any further, go back to the main video and hit the little cogwheel over here. This is going to enable 3D layers inside of it. So now we are going to make this a 3D layer, and what we're going to do is we are going to start masking this. So I'm going to fit this to the page, actually make this 50% just so I have some extra space around. And we're gonna make this in a triangular shape just because it's easy to work with. So just press and make a triangle shape, and you've just cut out a little mask. So now what we're gonna do is you're just gonna duplicate this, get the pointer tool, and move one of the positions. Duplicate. I think I duplicated the mask by accident. So just duplicate the layer and move, and duplicate the layer and move, and duplicate the layer, and you basically get the idea. You just have to duplicate it a lot of times and just cut out these different shapes to basically fill up where your text is. So just keep duplicating it and cutting out these little pieces, and duplicate this. So it's a pretty simple idea, and it's very quick. There's just a couple of things that you'll have to do after this. So there we go, cutting this together. There we go, looks great. So now we have all of this in here and it looks nice, except for when you zoom in and you start noticing that, let's make this full quality, you start noticing that there's small holes in here. So the way to fix that is you're just gonna command A to select all layers, hit M twice, and for mask expansion, just pull it up by like 2 pixels or so. on everywhere. So just gonna do it by 2. Let's just do it 4 just in case. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. You get the idea. Okay, so now it's looking nice and clean, and we can just minimize all this so we see all the layers. So now what we are going to need to do is we are going to need to make it really nice, make them compile really nicely together. So you're just going to hit Command A. You're going to go to P for position and keyframe all of these for the 5th second, let's say. 5 seconds in 1 frame for me, I guess. And what you're gonna do next is you're gonna go to the 1st frame, and we're gonna start separating the layers. So we're just gonna go pick the bottom one, hit P, and just go in a random position. So just push it all the way back and then hide it, go to the next, push it all the way forward, and hide it, then go to the next, push it by like a random value. So the point of this is they're all going to be going in different depths. So they're going to be overlapping, and they're going to be flying in and coming in and flying out, doing all different types of things. So, and then just do this for every layer, and then we're going to offset them, and you're going to see how this is going to combine. I mean, you've seen the final result, so you have an idea of how it's going to be. So basically do this for every layer. Also, while you're doing this, don't forget to be saving your project, just in case if your program ends up crashing for some reason. And so now we just finished the last layer. So what we're going to do now is bring all of them back, so make them all visible. So as you can see, this looks crazy. Next thing we're going to do is select them all, hit T for opacity. We're going to go maybe 3 seconds in, or 4 seconds in, and keyframe the opacity. So they should all keyframe at 100. Then we're going to go back to the beginning and just hit 0, and make them all disappear. So now if you play it back, you are going to see that everything comes together at once. So there's nothing ever really nice looking when everything happens at the same time. Overlapping things is how you make things look really clean. So what we're gonna have to do is we are gonna take all these layers, and we're just gonna randomly move them. So you're just gonna overlap something more forward, something more behind, something more forward, just like differently in time, position them differently, and maybe keep offsetting them back. That way it like builds up over time. So boom, this should look nice, and if you just quickly scrub through, everything gets pieced together. There we go. So it looks nice. So if you go to the main video now, and now you can see that when the camera is moving, there's really perspective, lots and lots of perspective, But what you're gonna need to do. Oh, also, I forgot to mention that. Let's go back to the position. So hit P after selecting all layers, and select all these keyframes. And once again, do keyframe easy ease. That way, they slowly land at the end. So it's like they connect. Now that we have all this pieced together, we're just gonna bring the entire studio element up to the front. So you can hit P for the studio and bring it more to the front. I'm actually gonna bring it a lot more, just so you get a lot more depth. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hit S for scale. I'm just gonna scale it down a little bit, just so at the end it fits the ring really nicely. So now you get to see that there's a lot of depth to this. Now that we have all the animations looking very nice and clean, we are gonna now light this in a very nice way. So what I'm gonna do is, for the white solid, right, for the ring, I'm gonna toggle this, and I'm gonna choose maybe screen. So I'm gonna choose screen, and for this texture I'm gonna hit T and bring it down to maybe like 50%, maybe 40%, so you don't see it a lot. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna duplicate the ring with the screen effect on it, and you're gonna go and just put a fast blur and blur this ring so it starts lighting this scene. So I'm actually gonna bring this texture even down more, so maybe 30%. So now that you're having the blurring on this ring, we might actually wanna bring the expansion on the ring to be a little bigger. So let's make it -50 and -50. There we go. Just so you can get the blurring on there and make it just a lot brighter. There we go. And actually for the main one, I'm gonna make it a little skinnier. So maybe, yep, -40. So that's looking nice. The ring looks too sharp though, so I'm just gonna put a little blur on it. Just like a 2-pixel blur. Actually, not even a blur, just a mask feather, a 2-pixel feathering on it, just to make it look nice, make it look a little cleaner. And then we're gonna duplicate another ring with the blur, but we're gonna make the blurriness a lot less, so maybe something like 80, and we're gonna make the opacity of it a lot less, so maybe like 50. That gives it a nice little highlight. Where's this? There we go. It gives it a nice little highlight, makes it glow a little nicer. So after that, we are gonna do the same thing with the studio text. So we're just gonna duplicate the studio text, apply a fast blur, blur it a lot, go to mode, do screen, and for the first one, we are gonna do a screen as well. That way, it looks like it lights up. There we go. I'm just gonna decrease the opacity lower just so it's not super bright. And yeah, this is looking nice. I'm gonna once again duplicate the studio and just bring down the blurriness, so maybe like 60%. And once again bring down the opacity to maybe 30, just to give it a nice little edge, as you can see over here. So now that we have all these layers, we have the animation, we have the lighting, it's looking nice. We could do a flashing of the ring to light it up in the beginning. So we're just gonna hit T for all these 3 rings, and we're just gonna zoom in a little and hit opacity here, hit this keyframe again, and hit this keyframe again, and then just go in between and put 0, and going in between again, put 0, and go over here, and so it starts off in the dark as well. So let's bring these closer, and let's look at the final flashing. There we go. So as you can see, it gets a nice little flash when the pieces are getting put together. And if you need to increase the speed of this animation, you can just go to time and time stretch, and I'm just gonna do 70 just so it goes faster, just so the pieces get compiled a lot faster together. So there you go. We basically reached the final result. It looks pretty close to what we made here. Now we're gonna make the lens effects. As you can see, there's like dirt on the lens, and that is pretty easy to do. What you can do is you can again look for a texture. So you can go to Google and just type in dirty lens texture. Go to images, go to tools. Once again, we're going to get a nice high resolution, larger than 8 megapixels, and we're going to go and look for some nice texture. This looks pretty grimy. This looks nice. This looks actually really nice, so we're going to go for this. And let's download this. Let's download this image. Let's put lens texture dirty. Throw this in here. There we go. Again, save the project just in case. And you're gonna overlay this at the very top. It's gonna be really big. You can go to screen, or you can go to, let's try soft light. No, let's try hard light. No. Let's try overlay. Overlay looks a little too dark. Lighten. Lighten looks pretty good. Maybe you're gonna stick with screen and just hit T. Bring it down to around 20%. We're gonna put again, bring it, make it a 3D layer, and we're gonna move this way to the front, a lot to the front, and then we're gonna scale it down so it matches the size again. So we're gonna bring this way to the front and make this a lot smaller, so maybe like 80%. So now when it zooms out, oh yeah, right, we need to rotate this and scale it back up. There we go. So now you're getting some nice depth in the lens dirt, and you can also layer those on top of each other as well, so you can do multiple layers of dirty lenses, so it goes through that depth. And maybe you could even do a little displacement, so like a little turbulent displace, and keyframe the evolution, so you can just hit option and click on the thing, and then just do time times, I don't know, 30. That should be nice. That way you're getting some organic motion on the lens as well. So I'm gonna render this out, show this at the very end, and but yeah, this is the tutorial for making this intro over here. I'm gonna call it ring light intro. So this is the tutorial for the ring light intro. I hope you enjoyed it and learned some new techniques in this video. Once again, this is Studio X, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, please be sure to leave a like. Leave a comment for any intros or any effects that you would want me to teach next. I'm going to be coming out with a lot more videos shortly, so be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell icon to get notified anytime I post a video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.